Fishing is a lucrative industry in Taiwan, but the high profits come at a big price. Many fishing vessels in Taiwan sail under what's called flags of convenience. This means that they are registered in foreign countries that allow the ship owner to circumvent the strict laws and regulations in Taiwan, such as labor and safety standards. In 2019, the practice of sailing under flags of convenience came under scrutiny after a 19-year-old Indonesian died on a Taiwan-owned vessel registered in Vanuatu. Today, in our Sunday Special Report, we revisit this dark chapter that triggered condemnation and calls for better conditions for migrant workers.
As an island nation, Taiwan has thousands of fishing vessels operating across the ocean. Its tuna fishing sector is among the biggest in the world, with an annual output value of nearly 40 billion NT. But under all the impressive figures hides a dark struggle for basic human rights.
Hello sir, ma'am. Po si Virgen Asuncion. Humihingi po sa inyo ng tulong. Yan ako po'y nanghihina ngayon, hindi makahinga.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Manny, and I need help. I am very weak and can barely breathe. I am very short of breath right now. Look, I live on this boat, and it's so hot. Please help me. They just threw us here and left us. You'll believe me when I show you. I put some cardboard and blankets over here like this, so it won't be so hot. It's so hot in the cabin. There's no air conditioning.
This man calling for help is Manny from the Philippines. In April of 2019, he boarded the Dawang, a Vanuatu-flagged fishing vessel operated by a Taiwanese firm. In the video, Manny alleged inhumane treatment by the Taiwanese captain of the vessel. He said he was hot, hungry, and afraid of dying on the ship.
Minsan naaalala ko, umiiyak ako dyan na nagtatrabaho ko. Sabi ko nga, buti na lang. Na-rescue ako ng mga...
Sometimes when I think back on my time working on the vessel, I cry. But I think at least I was rescued in the end. I called 1955 for help. Had they come 2 or 3 minutes later, I might have already been dead. I had been locked up.
他只能吃干泡面，还不是煮过泡面哦。他常常就只能吃干泡面，然后到晚上肚子真的很饿的时候，他就只能去找那个鱼的内脏。
He could only eat instant noodles, uncooked instant noodles. He would eat that, and when he got really hungry at night, he would eat fish offal to get by. When we interviewed him, we heard all these sad stories. It was very shocking to hear that these human rights abuses were being committed on a Taiwanese fishing vessel.
Manny was lucky to escape alive, but that was not the case for one of his colleagues, 19-year-old Sunoto from Indonesia. One day, the chief mate on the vessel attacked Sunoto with a sandal for not being fast enough. The next morning, Sunoto was found dead in bed. Three years after the incident, FTV got in touch with Manny. The fit and healthy man of today is a far cry from the bony figure he used to be on the Dawang. Since then, the National Immigration Agency has deemed him a victim of human trafficking, and he is now living in a shelter. The things he saw on the Dawang have stayed with him to this day.
Minsan tinatadyakan, suntok, ganun pala.
The chief mate would kick him, punch him, strike him, sometimes with heavy objects. That colleague of mine who died, whenever he made a mistake, the chief mate would hit him.
The autopsy said he had died of pulmonary edema, and with that, they just brushed it all under the rug. It was such a rushed affair. It was a human life. He lost his life before he even turned 20.
Calls for justice emerged after the 19-year-old died out at sea.
Last year, we helped a Philippine fisherman with a lawsuit, and this year, we're helping another fishery worker. In our shelter, we now have 2 fishermen who used to work on the Dawang. The vessel is operated by a Taiwanese firm, but it's registered in Vanuatu. It's sailing under a flag of convenience.
The Vanuatu-flagged Dawang was registered under a flag of convenience, a practice that creates a legal gray area. Because of the foreign registration, The Taiwan government is unable to intervene in incidents like these.
大旺这个案子，它反映的是整个
The Taiwan incident showed that there are many supervisory failures and regulatory loopholes in Taiwan's fishing industry.
权利船其实船舶我们一般都认为
The issue with flags of convenience is that we consider vessels an extension of the registered country's territory. So when the Dawang is abroad and a crime happens in the open sea, we can't really investigate the matter. At the same time, without any evidence of what transpired, we also can't declare that someone is guilty of a crime.
The fisheries agency, prosecutors' offices, and government agencies can't enforce their authority in accordance to Taiwan's laws. Carrying out investigations or even boarding the vessels come with a lot of difficulties.
According to the fisheries agency, 253 vessels in Taiwan operated under a flag of convenience in 2022. Civic groups estimate the figure to be much higher at more than 400 vessels. At 20 fishermen per vessel, that would mean that almost 10,000 people signed work contracts with Taiwanese ship owners that were not covered by the Labor Standards Act or the regulations on the authorization and management of overseas employment of foreign crew members. Were the abuses on the Dawang an isolated incident, or are they just the tip of the iceberg?
可以看过
Over the past few years, over more than 10 years, the number of such cases has stayed in the single digits.
The world is paying close attention to the issue of human rights in the fishing industry. It is a widespread problem in distant water fishing.
It's hard to know exactly how common human rights abuses are in the industry, but the case on the Dawang caught international attention. In January of 2022, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection released a press release saying its investigations into the Dawang found evidence of all 11 international indicators of forced labor and that it would therefore seize the ship's catch. The U.S.'s move against the ship prompted Taiwanese authorities to finally make a move on industry abuses.
我们国内大概在今年
On February 15, 2022, Taiwan revoked the operating permit for the Dawang and required that the ship owner transfer operating rights to others.
At the current stage, Fengchun Formosa's stance is that we will cease engagement with fishing vessels to which the U.S. Customs and Border Protection issues a withhold release order. We'll suspend trade for as long as the withhold release order lasts, until the U.S. Customs and Border Protection makes adjustments.
Flags of convenience have a storied history and occupy a very complex space in international law. The practice is unlikely to be on its way out any day soon.
现阶段不可能让它归零。
Currently, it's impossible to bring the number to zero. People say, make that disappear, ban flags of convenience, but they will still exist anyway. If we don't have any rules to govern them, and we just do away with our regulations governing flags of convenience, we would be unable to also regulate investors.
就因为它是一个我们刚讲 flag of convenience，它其实让你一个
Flying a flag of convenience is something that can facilitate fishing. It allows vessels to get funds to be abroad and develop other countries' fishing industries. At the same time, it gives profits to investors. By design, you can't really use Taiwanese laws to regulate the practice.
In December 2020, Taiwan passed an amendment to the regulations on the approval of investment in or the operation of foreign flag fishing vessels. It places restrictions on who may apply for approval to invest in or operate vessels flying foreign flags. For example, it includes applicants previously found guilty of human trafficking. But this legislation still allows plenty of loopholes, experts say.
政府其实是有一部法律在规管权益船的。
There are many laws in Taiwan that regulate flags of convenience, regulate investments, regulate foreign flagged vessels, but there are no laws that cover labor. There are no laws to ensure basic human rights or related issues.
Civic groups say Taiwan's current legislation covers only employers without offering any protections to workers such as Manny. The former fisherman says that being able to speak with his loved ones after work is the most precious moment of his day. It's been 3 years since Manny left the Philippines for Taiwan. His phone is filled with photos of his daughter and his wife. Manny says he can't wait to rejoin his family, but not until the case is closed on the death that he witnessed on the Dawang. The former fisherman is determined to stay to obtain justice for his deceased colleague.